Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. Now I am not long back from a little plod in South Africa at the Comrades Marathon. Now after conquering the Down Run last year, got one of these, I went back to tackle the Up Run to bag myself a little back-to-back medal. Now this 55-mile ultra starts with a 45-kilometre hill, but despite that it's also a race you should all definitely do. It's one of, if not the best running event I think I've ever experienced in 55 plus marathons and ultras. Now the shoe I chose for the run may have come as a bit of a surprise for some people. I went for the On Cloudmonster Hyper. This is a shoe that didn't really live up to expectations, potential or the price tag when we did our review. That was as a daily trainer. But I had a hunch it could be a good long steady road ultra shoe. And in this video I'm going to dig into whether that hunch was right. Is the Cloudmonster Hyper really secretly a road ultra racer more so than a daily super trainer? Let's get into it in my Cloudmonster Hyper and Comrades Marathon race test. Now before we get into the shoe, I wanted to give you a quick word on the Comrades Marathon. If you've never heard of this race before, you are missing out. It's the biggest and one of the oldest and most iconic ultra races on the planet. Around 25,000 runners each year tackle this run. Sometimes we run up, sometimes they run down. It's got a wonderful mix of ages, abilities, ethnicities, genders and nationalities. The start is incredibly special with the South African national anthem followed by Shosholoza, and the Chariots of Fire follows that. It's a race steeped in traditions with stories at every turn. The community around the event is the warmest, most supportive and welcoming I've ever encountered in a running event. If you like running and people and that feeling of community, this is the race. It's also very well organised. You've got well-stocked aid stations every 3 kilometres or so. This is an ultra where you don't need to carry water. You can get away with fueling from the aid stations too, with loads of salted potatoes, oranges, bananas. There are people holding out tubs of table salt if you're that way inclined. There's all sorts available consistently along the course. Outside of the official feed stations, there are also hundreds of supporters and organisations who've got their own tents. They plug the gaps. You basically can have water pretty much the whole way. And the support along the route is simply incredible. Even though we start very early, the noise coming out of Durban was intense. Basically, if you need something, anything, people will get it for you. I stopped at one point trying to find sparkling water because I have a thing about that at the moment. And a chap went off and found me some and basically saved my race with about 15 kilometres to go. It's a brutally tough race that requires intelligent pacing. It's got all the joy and pain that you'd want from an epic ultra challenge. It had me in tears at the start, in the middle and at the end. Now I could rattle on about how good this race is all day, but I better get on with the shoe review. However, if you've ever considered going longer than a marathon, and you're thinking about an ultra but you're not sure about the trails, this road ultra should be firmly on your bucket list. You will not regret going. Onto the shoe then, and the Cloudmonster Hyper might have seemed like an odd choice for this race. It's a shoe I've criticised for being expensive and not delivering the punchy performance that you'd generally expect from a super trainer. It basically failed to wow us here when we did the review. You can find that on the channel. But after 8 hours and 50 minutes moving mostly at a steady pace, 9 to 10 minute mile pace on relentless tarmac, some of that on unforgiving freeway asphalt, big climbs, some steep descents, I think I might have found what the On Cloudmonster Hyper is actually best at, moving at an even slower end pace with consistency and comfort. Why? Well, the first thing that worked was that the Hyper served up bucket loads of cushioned comfort and road protection without feeling too heavy. This is a comparatively light shoe for its general heft, and that was noticeable throughout, but particularly into the final hours of this race. I never felt weighed down. When I landed with good form, this Peber wedge offered some energy, but in a controlled way that I don't always get with some of the other kind of really max cushion shoes. Hoka Skyward X is one of those. When I got tired and ragged and landed further back on my heels, there was enough cushion here from these regular CloudTec elements to ensure that I felt protected. There's a balance to the cushioning that tames the road but doesn't feel soft and sinky at those slower paces. Now, perhaps surprisingly, my final 4 miles in this race were my fastest. And I found some gears to move up to. I hit 8-minute miles or so. And when I needed that little bit of extra, the Hyper offered just enough. The other aspect of the Hyper design that really worked in this race was the spacious high volume toe box. Now, even though when we ran down some steep downs, that length clearance in the Hyper toe box and across the top meant that I had absolutely no toe bashing. That's a big problem you can get with ultras. And not a single sign of black toenails post-race. That is often not the case when you're running with shoes that are a bit more compact, a bit tighter, where inevitably you get bashing. Now, there are other shoes that have some of these attributes that the Cloudmonster Hyper has. Absolutely, there are out there. Plenty of people ran the Novablast 4, the Super Blast, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. These are all shoes that I think can cater nicely for this kind of distance, and they're a bit cheaper generally. Race test verdict then, I still wouldn't pay the Cloudmonster Hyper price to use this shoe as a daily trainer, but for a day-long ultra on the road, this shoe gave me everything that I needed when I asked for it. I always think the best shoe is the one that you forget you're wearing, and that is exactly what happened during this race. I was able to tick over with the right balance of comfort, energy and protection, and just get on with grinding out those miles without worrying about how my feet were feeling. It wasn't laboured on the ups, it wasn't toe bashing on the downs, and at the end, when I needed to find something extra to get under the 9 hours and bag a second Bill Rowan medal, it had just enough spring and energy to push me on. I think the biggest compliment that I can give the Cloudmonster Hyper is that I'm now seriously considering it for my next race, which is the 100-mile Berlin Wall Ultra in August. This shoe wasn't on my radar for that a way back. It certainly is now. So there you have it, that's my ultra race test of the On Cloudmonster Hyper. I hope you found it enlightening. Hit me up in the comments with the shoes that you chose for Comrades. I met so many of you out there on the road, it was wonderful to see you all. But let me know how your shoes got on, or any other road ultras that you've run. What shoes worked for you? Tell us how they performed. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and ring that bell. And if you're interested in other shoes that made my ultra road shoe shortlist, I'm going to pop that video up on the channel now. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. We hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers, and in the meantime, happy running, people.